If you remember the auto races at the Palm Springs Airport, or can you name the sports car that took its name from a Valley Country Club? These are just a few examples of car-related trivia that Steve Summerall examines in this automotive edition of our Desert Pass.
Today we'll be talking about the automobile. Not only has it gotten you from place to place, there are several interesting connections to our Desert Pass, so strap yourself in. This is Coachella Valley car culture.
This is a 1940 Lincoln. Look at this beautiful Continental Cabriolet.
For nearly a quarter of a century, McCormick's exotic car show and auction has been celebrating car culture here in the Coachella Valley. Hundreds of magnificent machines motor through here, each one with its own unique history. Some vehicles stand out merely because of their previous drivers, whether it be Johnny Carson, Herman Munster, or Batman. So, how did all of this get started? Event organizer Keith McCormick explains.
Really, I moved here from England in the very early 80s, and by 1985 we put on the Vintage Grand Prix classic car races through the streets here, and then from there on in everybody associated Palm Springs with collector cars, and this is where the flash and the ambience of driving the old classic cars really got re-fired up.
In addition to the car shows, there are several testaments to our four-fendered friend that can be found right here in the Coachella Valley. Palm Springs would be the first stop of our journey. Indian Avenue, south of I-10, to a former welding shop called the Hole in the Wall.
It took us all the way through to the end of September. It took us 5 months to complete it.
Rick Grissom recalls building this monstrous monument with his good friend Bob Miner. Bob was the owner of the land here, and the spider was his idea.
We saw a picture of a Volkswagen in Reno, Nevada that was six-legged. And he said he always wanted to build one like it, so we decided we'd build an eight-legged one that was taller than it, and that would actually be the largest one that's ever been built, and we kind of succeeded.
Bob passed away in 2008, but his creation, which is 28 feet tall and contains nearly 300 feet of steel, continues to be a source of amusement to motorists passing through the valley. This is Bob's legacy. A hybrid of German engineering and good old American showmanship that has gained more attention than anyone thought possible. Rancho Mirage is the next stop on our journey. For the city's connection to classic car culture, all you have to do is look at the name on the sign. In 1954, the valley's first 18-hole golf course and country club lent its name to the Ford Motor Company's new sports car, and the Thunderbird was born. Ford chairman of the board, Ernest Breach, was a member and had been granted permission by the club to use its name. Ford gave the very first T-Bird to Thunderbird president John Dawson. It was a vehicle worthy of kings and presidents. As a matter of fact, John F. Kennedy himself put the first 400 miles onto this 1963 model. But the Thunderbird isn't the only vehicle with ties to the valley.
Late on in the 1950s, there was a guy called Raymond Loewy who designed the Coca-Cola bottle, the first bullet train, and he designed the Studebaker Avanti, and he did it at a house here on Ramon Road. And then he finished his drawings, and Studebaker, as most people know, went belly up a few years later, but they had the Studebaker Avanti, and it was all designed here, it was all hush-hush, and that was meant to just keep Studebaker going, but unfortunately it didn't.
You may have seen Raymond Loewy's work elsewhere. He's responsible for the iconic logos for Shell, BP, and Lucky Strike. He's also responsible for the unique designs of the Greyhound bus and Air Force One. Palm Springs road races were held on hay bale-lined runways at the Palm Springs Airport from 1951 to 1958, with city streets used for the straightaway.
They started in 1950 and attracted the biggest names in racing. Carroll Shelby came out, Jack McAfee, and they were both champions, of course. They raced Ferraris, they raced Maseratis, and it was primarily at the airport. So they came out with a track along the airport route, and then people would just line up on the sidelines. I mean, it was dangerous.
James Dean took third place in 1955, moving to second when another driver was disqualified. He was driving a Porsche, but contrary to popular lore, it wasn't the one he drove in his fatal car accident later that same year. Steve McQueen tested his skills, as did Clark Gable. Each year had a race queen, and like all of our events past and present, the Palm Springs Road Race had a special place on the seasonal calendar. Throughout the 80s and 90s, there were several attempts to revive this event, but to no avail.
The road race in the 1990s could not sustain itself because it was, A, too dangerous, too many people still in Palm Springs, or too many people had come to Palm Springs. It was not feasible.
For our Desert Past, Steve Summerall, NBC Palm Springs, News First.